Right, so Dr. Stan, good to meet you.
Good to be with you.
So, what woke you up, and when was that?
Well, it was 49 years ago when I came home exhausted after a long day at the office, and I turned on my television and I got the wrong channel. I wanted to watch a television detective story called The Naked City, story of detectives in New York, and instead there was an old man on television, and he was talking about what was going on in America. That was 1962. And he said the media was controlled. He said America was not a democracy, it was a republic. He said the American government knew that Fidel Castro was a communist, and yet they had brought him to power. He said a lot of things that I found difficult to believe, but he intrigued me enough that I started reading. And sure enough, I eventually came to the conclusion the media in America is controlled. Doing the research, it became obvious that our founding fathers created a republic, not a democracy, and it became very obvious very soon that the State Department had known that Fidel Castro was a communist, yet they brought him to power. And this, of course, began to open up a whole new world for me. And after 49 years, I made a lot of mistakes, I've learned a lot, but I think we have a fairly good grasp of what's going on today. And building on that, we hope to educate people so that they will be able to pick up and carry on when I'm no longer here. Because we are truly involved in a spiritual battle being played out on a political, ideological, cultural, financial, educational battlefield. But there really are supernatural spiritual forces involved in what's going on in the world today. And our plea is find out if it's really true. Understand that they intend to destroy America financially, morally, spiritually. They, and by when I say they, I mean there's the groups of people, only perhaps about 6,000 of them, but they know exactly what they're doing and they control the wealth of this nation. And their goal is, of course, to actually use the financial and military power of the United States to bring about a one world government, a one world currency, a one world religion. They want to destroy Christianity, and they want to install a one world leader. That's their goal, that's their stated goal, and they're well on their way to accomplishing that goal. And certainly we've written a book, and we recommend people get it, called The Brotherhood of Darkness. And it's changed many people's lives, and we hope that the readers will want to get a copy and get this out, because it really gives you some insight into documentation as to who really runs the world today.
And you, another important book you have here is Tragedy and Hope. When did you first come across Tragedy and Hope, Carroll Quigley's?
Well, I really came across the book, Tragedy and Hope, The History of the World in Our Time, back in 1966 when it was first published. It was put out by Macmillan. It was written by Professor Quigley, who was a liberal college professor, probably the leading historian of the 20th century. And he'd taught at Princeton and Harvard before he went to Georgetown University and taught his most famous student, a young man named William Jefferson Clinton. And Professor Quigley even signed the papers recommending Bill Clinton to become a Rhodes Scholar, introduced Bill Clinton to the men who run the world, and that's how Bill Clinton became the President of the United States. But Professor Quigley had stumbled across this secret society that rules the world back in about 1946 when he took a trip to England immediately after the Second World War, and he wanted to understand the social structure of Great Britain. I mean, how the various political parties and and the monarchy all worked together. And what was the real forces that controlled England? And after he was there for a time, he became friends with a man named Alfred Zimmern. And Zimmern was a professor of international relations at Oxford University. Professor Quigley was a historian. The two of them hit it off. And finally, Zimmern told Quigley, "You're wasting your time, because you can't really understand what's going on in England unless you understand there's a secret society. I know because I was part of it, but you can't tell anybody." And that's really the interesting part of the story, is because actually I went back to Quigley's papers. I have the letters between Quigley and Zimmern and Quigley, where they write back and forth about the secret society, but always with the proviso that Professor Quigley would never tell anybody how he knew about the secret society that controlled England, brought England into the Boer War, the First World War, the Second World War, and of course had come to America, and in 1921 it formed a society here, a front for Cecil Rhodes' secret society. Cecil Rhodes created his secret society in 1891 to bring about a world government. They formed a series of various other secret societies, of which one was the Round Table, and in 1921, the Round Table, which was a secret society, created a front organization in the United States. It was called the Council on Foreign Relations. And it's not simply by accident that Jimmy Carter, when he was the president back in from 77 to 1980, he had almost over 270 members of the CFR and the Trilateral Commission, which is the CFR front organization in the Carter administration. Of course, Ronald Reagan criticized Jimmy Carter at that time and said how terrible it was. And yet Ronald Reagan, the arch conservative who championed the cause of America, had at least 250 members in the Trilateral Commission and the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, in his administration. In fact, if you read David Rockefeller's memoirs, he sort of laughs at the fact that even Ronald Reagan was their man and was forced to invite the members of the Trilateral Commission to have dinner at the White House. You can verify that in David Rockefeller's book, Memoirs. That's David Rockefeller's Memoirs. If you want to know the background of the secret society and the Council on Foreign Relations, Professor Quigley's book, Tragedy and Hope, A History of the World in Our Time, pages 951 and 952 will tell you that the Council on Foreign Relations was organized in 1921 as a front for J.P. Morgan and the small American Roundtable Group. Now, these are things you're never going to hear about in the media, because the media in America is controlled. You're not going to learn about it in college, because most of our universities are controlled. You'll not hear our political leaders talk about it, because we have the finest political leaders in Washington, D.C. that money can buy. And this small group of people controls the military, they control banking, they control our major corporations, they control our government, they control the educational process, they control the tax-exempt foundations, Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Ford. They are the invisible government of the United States that makes mockery of this concept of democracy. We have a ruling elite that is using the financial and military power of the United States to bring about, as I said before, a one world government, a one world currency, a one world religion, destroy Christianity, and install a one world ruler.